Welcome. I am Alvin Wallace, and this is Talk with Business. The Caribbean is known for its rich culture, arts, and festivals. Caribbean people are unique innovators, creating marketable industries and increasing economic growth. The entrepreneurial landscape of the Caribbean has been categorized by the World Bank as maintaining a positive growth rate prior to the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. Aside from this, there has been an emergence of new businesses in the Caribbean. Interestingly enough, what has prompted the success of these businesses is the use of digital marketing strategies such as social media platforms. In this episode, we will be diving into entrepreneurship and innovation in the digital age. Joining us today for this discussion is Anika Bellot, owner of The Watering Can, Shiris Noel, Associate Attorney at Law of Afi Ventor and Company, and Mr. Jarrell Fenton, CEO of WeCulture. Ladies, gentlemen, welcome to Talk with Business. How are you today?
I am well. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
I'm doing quite fine myself.
Great.
Yes, I'm good, thank you. Good night,
Good
everyone.
to be back with all our cable people.
Oh, what
Yes.
a wonderful
I
time.
know, right? Big up the blackbird.
Blackbirds.
Yeah, man, it's good to see you all and good to have you on Talk with Business. So, with the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, guys, as we delve into the discussion, I would say many businesses had to find innovative ways to survive and thrive during this pandemic. And, only the businesses that were really truly to survive and thrive in this period were the ones that was able to adapt to the new environment in which they were operating in. So I will throw the first question for tonight's discussion to Jarrell, who has been an entrepreneur for quite a number of years, be it in the entertainment and promotion industry, as well as marketing. How has the digital age changed the scope and nature of the workplace? And do you believe that our Caribbean people are ready to face this digital age?
Yes, just to answer your last question, we are more than ready because we are doing it now and we're just seeing amazing results. Like one example that just comes to the top of my mind, I see being in entertainment, I see music as a business, and I think every artist should see themselves as a business. We have Father Phyllis from Barbados with the song Brawling, and just looking at the trajectory of that song and how he was able to utilize social media so well to market it and promote it. You just see that we're in a different age 10 years ago, not even 10, maybe like 5 years ago, to as a new artist to be able to get such traction so quickly won't be possible. Radio station managers won't be looking at you to add your song to their playlist, etc. But with the democratization of social media, you see that new worlds are open and the opportunities are endless.
So in the Caribbean, you really think that we are on par or on level with the rest of the developing world in terms of our utilization of the use of digital platforms for our businesses?
That is a tricky question. Being based in London, one of the major cities in the world, you get to see startups operating at a breathtaking pace. But these startups have millions of dollars behind them, so there's no way. And also the market, the numbers to support it, so there's no way that we can compete. So the Caribbean, we have to carve out what works for us. We can't just look at what's working in the rest of the world. We have to carve out what works for us, experiment with different business models, and also see the world as our oyster. So we import a lot of products and services, so we need to start to export more, and everything is different. The culture is different in different places. But again, there's a lot of opportunity. I look at Africa now. We are all of the major companies, a lot of the Fortune 500 companies are trying to get into Africa because they see it as an emerging market. But they can't take what's worked in North America, what's worked in Europe, and just apply it straight to Africa. You have to respect the culture. You have to do everything. But there's definitely a lot of opportunity. I saw this week that Uber launched officially in Kingston, Jamaica. That was promising to me. It shows that we can definitely do it. There's nothing stopping us.
That's a very interesting point you made. And as companies tend to expand beyond their borders of origin, they tend to have to really gain that understanding on these new markets and be able to adapt and adjust their products or service offering to meet the needs of those markets in order to really thrive in those markets. Council, I see you in the corner there smiling while Jarrell was talking. I'm going to throw one at you now. What safeguards do we have in place in the Caribbean to really protect employees, entrepreneurs, and people by extension with the use of digital platforms?
Well, like Jarrell or ringtone, saying Jarrell is very weird.
It's weird.
What ringtone? You know, right? It's ringtone. It's not Jarrell, it's ringtone. So it's a fairly relatively new or emerging market in the Caribbean. So obviously, coming from a society where everything was done mechanically by hand or whatever, our laws and our legal framework and policies are not probably at the right stage right now, but we have seen movements towards it. For example, different countries are enacting electronic crimes acts, which would cater to using misuse of information or data belonging to other persons over the web, over different software programs and stuff. So it's on its way, but it's not there. It's not a very strong framework as yet, but we see little attempts here and there to try to incorporate the digital world into what we already know as the legal framework, and you know what's right, what's wrong, what you can do. So I think the Electronic Crimes Act being implemented in different countries is a step in the right direction. Also, apart from like the criminal sphere in the civil world, like, you know, we have corporate espionage, which is basically using misuse of persons' data, stolen through software and stuff. So that's the civil avenue persons can take in order to recoup whatever losses they would have incurred. So, you know, we're getting there, but of course the framework is not the strongest as yet, but eventually.
Well, I like that little bit of hope you actually give us in terms of saying we're getting there, which is a typical Caribbean line, right? Yeah. But is it safe to say that the technology is evolving much faster than we are able to amend some of the laws and so on our books that can protect our people and our businesses against what possible ills that may surface from the use of those technologies?
Well, to be honest, everything is developing faster than we update our laws. So the answer is definitely yes. And then apart from having to develop the laws, like the technology within our states are not very developed as well. So unless we see or we have the basic technological infrastructure in place to see what's what here, how would we know what we need a legal framework to protect? So I think it kind of goes hand in hand. So, you know, small steps, hopefully the step size will increase soon, because we all know digital is the way to go in the future.
Indeed. I have to agree with you there, definitely. But while I have you in the hot seat, I'm going to keep you there for a bit. With the entrepreneurship sphere in the Caribbean on the rise, we are seeing the battle between innovation and intellectual property. And it seems as though we are in an age where instead of creating new products, people are piggybacking off what already exists or what we can call established products in the market. So how can organizations protect their intellectual property, or what actions can they take to protect themselves from persons using their intellectual property illegally?
Well, there are several routes they can take. The first step, even though it's not directly linked to protecting your intellectual property, the first step I would advise persons to do is if you have a business, the first thing to do is to register your business. Get your brand out there, do intensive branding. So that way when you launch a product and someone sees it, they automatically link it to your brand. So that way when you go and do the other steps I'll be talking about, it becomes easier should you have to go to court for you to say, look, this is mine, this is what I created, I am known for this. So at the very beginning, just register your business and slap your logos and logos on everything. In terms of protecting your intellectual property now, there are different mechanisms you can use. For one, you can copyright your creations. Copyright is basically putting ownership to something you would have created. So whether it's music, art, painting, a product, of course it must be original, and there are exceptions to use what is fair use. But one step they can definitely take is to copyright it. So that way, when someone uses it without your permission, you bring the copyright, so you have the copyright and you present them with it and you tell them, hey, you can't use this, and by you using this, you're making you lose the revenue. So that's one way. And next step would be to trademark your stuff. What can be trademarked? Definitely apply a trademark. Now, applying a trademark is basically registering a mark, so to speak. I don't want to use back the same word, but say like how you have the Supreme and you always see TM on stuff. Right. So these are companies that would have trademarked their logos. So that way, whenever someone has to use it, they'll need their permission. Or if they trademark Supreme for clothing items, because it has different classes you can trademark your product for. So in the trademark process, you have to go through the different classes and say, okay, I want my trademark to apply to clothes, to electronics and so forth, because obviously there are bound to be similarities somewhere along the line. So with the trademark process, it has to be class specific as well. So when you go up to your lawyer or you go up to your intellectual properties office and you want to pull out the application to trademark, they're always going to ask you what classes do you want your trademark to refer to. So trademarking it is another step as well. Another option they have to protect your intellectual property is to patent your designs and your innovations. A patent it's limited protection. It doesn't last forever, so you have to keep renewing it. And of course, if you're patenting something, it has to be original, it has to be new, it has to be innovative. So these are the options persons have. I'd always encourage persons to always visit an attorney or your local corporate affairs and intellectual properties office so that you can see what options are available to you so that you can protect your work. Because with the digital sphere, like information gets out quickly and it has a far reach. So you really need to start protecting yourself because you don't know how far it can go. And if you leave it unprotected, someone else can very well profit off of your hard work.
Wow, cheers. That was indeed a mouthful. And I think it is really, really, really good knowledge that you've just shared with us and our listeners. And the general consensus I'm getting is that whether it's the use of copyright, whether it's the use of trademark or patents, it has to be your original work. And the advice you're giving is that they get in touch with their attorney to get the necessary legal advice in an effort to protect their intellectual assets. All right.
Definitely, it must be original work, and you protect your original work, and that way when you protect your original work, it stops people from adapting it or adapting very closely to it,
right?
And it stops people from taking your ideas. And then when everyone's doing what you're doing, what's so special about you on the market? So you really want to make your product special and distinct and sort of untouchable, so you can enjoy a certain confidence in the market when you're bringing.
Right. So to my Caribbean people, whether you're in the entertainment industry, whether you're an artist, whether you're making something that is tangible and selling it on the streets of our region, our countries, or on the beaches, whatever it is you're doing, it is good once it is original work. Get it patented or trademarked or copyright, whatever is most applicable to your situation, right? And that is the advice given here by our attorney, Shiris Noel. All right, moving on to our next panelist, and it is quite interesting, Shiris. We have two entrepreneurs here, so we might get a first-hand experience on how they would have initiated their process eventually as we go on in the discussion.
I hope so.
Indeed. For you, Anika, when you really sit and think about it, right? Entrepreneurship is messy. There is no single path or right answer. And that emphasizes the importance to explore and experiment and treat mistakes as learning opportunities. And that is something every entrepreneur goes through at some point in their entrepreneurship journey. So, Anika, where did your source of inspiration come from, and how easy, or should I say difficult, was it to start or get your business off the ground? And how did you overcome those challenges?
Well, thank you, Alvin. What I can say is that my entrepreneurship journey really started with my mother. She was really the source of inspiration in starting my business. So she's always been somebody who's very into plants herself. Me, not so much growing up. And so it started from her. And so she was the one who kind of, pushed me forward and said, this is something that I think you could do. And I myself had started getting into plants and, bit by bit caring for them and, doing really well at it as well. But she gave me that little extra push that I needed. And slowly but surely, it started off with just, preparing plants for friends, gifting it to a friend and, just sort of testing out the market in that way. And so people loved it. My friends loved it. And they also encouraged me. I have really a strong support system in my friends. They also encouraged me to continue doing it as a business. And to be honest, it really just took off, right? It was one of those things where you least expected it. I started it while I was still in school, so that was also a challenge in and of itself, doing it from a distance. But again, having the family support from my mom, she would while I was in my final years at Kville and at Riddim, she would do my deliveries for me. So again, through the digital age, I was able to take my orders via social media, Instagram, Facebook, and then send that over to my mom via WhatsApp, and she would prepare it and do my deliveries for me. So, that wouldn't be possible without the technology. So that's really where it started.
Wow. How amazing it is that technology has made things almost seamless and borderless, if I may say, because you're basically either was in Barbados or Trinidad and
yes,
running a business in Dominica, but the whole Caribbean and the wider world could have seen what you've been up to in terms of your business and promotion and the products that you're offering to your clients globally. So, it is amazing how the use of digital platforms really propel small businesses and take it beyond the borders of the Caribbean. And that is amazing indeed. Jarrell. Oh, sorry.
Just to add a little piece to that, you mentioned it takes it beyond the borders, and that's really true because, for example, I guess you guys can say the situation in other Caribbean islands, but I know for sure in Dominica, one of the challenges that we have, for example, somebody's overseas, a student is overseas studying like I was, and they want to send something to their mom for Mother's Day. They want to send something to somebody for Valentine's Day. And it's very difficult sometimes getting a provider that will provide a service or good and you can pay from overseas. That's a huge challenge, right? So for us, it was really good because we were able to use PayPal. We also have our local mobile banking that we use, which is like you can transfer funds between accounts. So people were able to use that. And that was one of the biggest compliments coming from overseas customers was the ability to be overseas, to be able to select the item that they want and to get it delivered directly to the recipient. So that was one of the major things in terms of being borderless.
I am so happy that you raised that point because it really adds flavor to the discussion here. No, because it is indeed a challenge when many, you see a large segment of the Caribbean population lives within the diaspora, but they have much of their families back home. And oftentimes they want to send more than just a barrel every 6 months or every year. And so, no, it really stimulates.
It's true.
It really stimulates economic activity within a country when persons in the diaspora can make purchases in local companies for their family and friends, or for whatever other reason within those countries. And so the general idea, or the point I'm trying to stress here, is that small businesses, entrepreneurs in the Caribbean, do not fear the use of online technologies and the use of online payment systems, because it will only do your business justice. It will only bring more revenue to your business, and thereby maximizing your profit margins and so on. So, I mean, if you don't understand how these online payment systems work, maybe speak to your financial advisor, or speak to somebody. As we would have stressed in episode 1, when we discuss financial literacy and so on. But yeah, that's the general consensus. And Anika, I'm sure you've been getting quite a positive feedback with the use of these payment methods.
I mean, I was also going to say, in terms of diaspora, they're very welcoming to doing that, but it still remains a challenge with locals. So sometimes people still will say, so, my business is fully online. It's a fully digital business. So I post the pieces that I do, the pan pieces and so on. I post them and people will still say, oh no, I need to touch it. I want to see. So I say, but I mean, on Amazon, you see a product and you view the product, you look at the reviews, but you don't actually get to physically hold the product until you actually make your purchase, right? So I don't know why Caribbean people fear buying a product online. I mean, yes, if it's a new business, there's some skepticism, but as long as we have reviews on our pages as well that people can go and look at, and they can call, and we facilitate various things, but there's still the need to tangibly, people still want to pay in cash, they still want to touch the product. So that still remains a challenge.
So would you say that was one of the main challenge in the adoption of the use of online payments for your business?
Well, I would say it was. I don't think it was the main challenge, but I would say it was a challenge in and of itself. What really helped, though, I think, was the pandemic. So this is one of the positive things that comes out of situations like these. So the pandemic, there were certain things that were inevitable. You have to. It made reducing the transmission of COVID more real. So there was contactless pay. The people weren't touching your products. It was reducing chances of contamination. You were also limiting customer to employee interaction. So all of those things helped in limiting and reducing the spread. And then you'd see other companies locally would also be going through that process. So supermarkets, who for years people were asking for digital services, all of a sudden could put all products online within a month and offer. So I mean, it forced people into a space that they didn't want to go to before, and the curve was very steep.
Yeah. So clearly, in times of crisis, I think in shifting away from focusing on the negative effects of those crises, I think it also creates a platform for opportunities, and I think the businesses that can really adapt are the ones that are going to flourish during those times, and even beyond the aftermath of those unfortunate circumstances. Yeah.
Agreed.
Darrell, you wanted to make a point? Oh, sorry. Right. So moving on to, I have a question as it relates to the use of digital platforms. What are some of the ways you have maximized the use of digital media platforms to attract clients to your products and services?
Okay. So we mainly use social media, the big platforms, which Instagram, my company Culture is a travel company. So travel is very visual. So we mainly use Instagram, Twitter as well, and Facebook to a much lesser extent. We did a podcast series on YouTube surrounding Carnival late last year. So those are the major ones we're using. We also do a newsletter which comes out periodically. So those are the major platforms that we're using.
Right. And you said your company is mainly a travel company, all right?
Yes.
Well, that will definitely allow me to beg the question: how has the pandemic impacted your business with borders being closed and airlines and so on unable to move, and all of those different challenges? What has that done for your business? Has it set back your business? Has it given you the opportunity to think and refocus and re-strategize how you're going to go forward in the aftermath of the pandemic and all of that?
Yes, well, travel has definitely been halted. As a responsible business, we did want to do anything during the pandemic. I wanted to definitely make sure that we are out of it. So our first trip is scheduled for summer of next year. Besides the bad of having to halt everything, it was just a time where you don't get to reflect a lot in business. And one of the terms is that you have to work on the business and not just in the business. So a lot of times you're going, especially as an entrepreneur, you're going at 100 miles an hour, you're just out in fires. So this time to just take a step back, it was honestly after the shock of it and after accepting this is the reality and then getting a few weeks of solid sleep, it was good. A lot of systems and processes that, again, we didn't have time to work on during regular times, we were able to really buckle down and work on those systems and processes. So when travel does open back up and with the trip that we are planning, it will be a much stronger company. And I wasn't, for my industry at least, I wasn't worried because I do know that there's going to be a lot of pent up demand after the pandemic. Well, we're going to be living in a new world. We're not sure if COVID-19 will ever leave us completely, but after most of the world is vaccinated, etc., there's just going to be a big boost in demand. And this isn't just for travel. This is for everything and experiences. I would say this is for almost any business, any service or product you're providing that couldn't have been done during COVID safely, that after what's looking as if going to be like 2 years, 18 months, 2 years, there's going to be a lot of demand for that service or product. So it was just making sure that we are ready, that once we are confident that things are safe and we can move forward in a responsible way, that we'll be able to serve our clients in the best manner possible.
I love the positive outlook on everything that has happened from you, Jarrell, because indeed entrepreneurs faced a great deal of challenges in and out of a pandemic. And so your ability to really have that positive outlook and you used a line that really stood out to me. Oftentimes you not just have to work in the business, but you also have to work on the business. And that really stands out. It's a big deal, and it can really differentiate and determine whether you are going to actually be successful in business or whether you're going to fail miserably. And I do pray for all our entrepreneurs out there in the Caribbean that it's not the latter, right? And so as we move on with the discussion, playing it safe isn't always your safest option. and I firmly believe that if you take risk, you will succeed. And that means getting outside of your comfort zone and thinking outside the box sometimes. Now, Annika, what would you say to anyone out there looking to start a business with very limited resources and is consistently finding themselves in a position where they are saying to themselves, I don't want to risk it all, boy, or should I really do this or should I not? You know, what would you say to people like that out there with brilliant ideas?
Well, it's very funny to me how people view risk, particularly in terms of starting a business, because people will risk it all for the new iPhone, they will risk it all to get the newest pair of Jordans, but they will have trouble finding money to start a business, right? So they can somehow pull out $1,000 to buy an iPhone 10, but they can't find the same to start a business. So it's really, I think, just about prioritizing and just recognizing what you want and looking at the bigger picture, you know? So, for example, even in terms of sometimes we feel like we don't have, social media is a driving force behind a lot of businesses right now. And, social media is nothing if you don't have followers, if you don't have people, who will actually view your content. And one of the biggest things I took out of, again, the whole COVID-19 lockdown period was collaborations. Collaborations are what can get you to a whole new level. So right now I'm probably known as like the collaboration queen in Dominica because I collaborate with any business that I think is valuable, and it's usually businesses that I myself use. I use their services, I use their goods, so I believe in their products as well. So I don't just believe in just jumping on a bandwagon because somebody has a lot of followers, But I think if somebody has a good following and you can both bring benefits to the table, why not collaborate? So
alliances.
Yes. So
yeah.
So I think in terms of starting a new business, you need to support other entrepreneurs because, and not just do it from a shallow place, but do it again. Like I said, there were businesses that I myself use and I believe in their products and services. So I use that to my advantage when I brought a quality product as well to the table. They were also confident in terms of, building that relationship. So I think finding like-minded other business owners will really help you, and prioritizing, what you want. So like I said, we find money every day for random things. And so if you can, reroute that into an area that you think will be beneficial to you in the long run, why not do it?
So again, listeners, we're not against you risking it for your Jordans or your iPhone.
At all.
If that brings you joy and happiness, then so be it.
Exactly.
However, you should not let your desires to own a business be impossible because of your fear to risk an investment that you believe in, or don't let people talk you out of your dreams in starting a business, because like Steve Jobs famously said, people never really know what they want until you put it in their face. And
that is very true, particularly in my case. There were people that, a lot of, probably 60% of my customers are people who had absolutely no interest in plants, and all of a sudden they're repeat customers. So you can make people into who they don't know that they want to be.
There you have it.
And if I could add something here, Alvin and Annika, because I just want to be careful that entrepreneurship isn't for everybody's like different personality types, and people have different goals. But if you yourself don't want to be an entrepreneur, if you don't want to have the stress of dealing with it, you just want to work a 9 to 5 and your direct deposit is sitting in your bank account, then you can look to support other entrepreneurs. You can become a professional number 2, a professional VPs like Annika. You're like, hey, I don't want to deal with all the stress and headaches that you have to deal with, but I can help you. I could be your number 2. You deal with all the headaches, you deal with the meetings, but when it comes to systems, processes, I could help you with that. Or if I'm good with finance, I could help you with that. Or if I have money, I could invest in your company and let you do all of the hard work. And if the company is profitable, I get a cut off of it and we are both winners.
Completely agreeing to it. And on that note as well, another thing in terms of collaborations, it kind of falls in the same bracket. If, for example, you're starting a business and again, you don't have the startup capital, feel free to barter. That is an age-old thing that's been around for centuries. That's how people started off before there was money. So for example, there was once where I needed to get some pictures taken of my product, and I couldn't necessarily afford the kind of services I wanted, but the photographer wanted plants in exchange. So we were able to do a trade-off and make that work. So, and there's also as well, I want to say, so much free money around the place that people just do not know about. There, for example, in Dominica, we have the Dominica Youth Business Trust, for example. You can do a program with them, and they will help you to secure a loan, for example, through one of the local banks in Dominica. So you don't have to put up the collateral for that. They will assist you on that end once you go through their thing. Dominica also has a small business grant program where you can get up to like $25,000, to start or to upgrade to advance your business, make some upgrades, whatever the case may be. So you just have to really look for it. A lot of people say that there's not anything out there, but there are challenges, but there are also a lot of opportunities that if we look for them, you can sometimes find them.
I agree with you, Annika. In a lot of the countries in the Caribbean, we often sit back and wait for the government to solve our problems, or wait for every other person to solve our problem. But we really have to get out there. We have to get up and do the necessary research, see what opportunities lie there.
But I don't want to let the government off the hook too, because the government
no, definitely not, because
that's customs killing us.
Exactly. And we could highlight so much issues where they can make differences to help the Caribbean people and help entrepreneurs in the Caribbean. But we wouldn't go into that in this discussion at the moment. We might have a part 2 to get that discussed. But the point I'm trying to make is that our people need to really actively engage in research and find out what financing opportunities are there for them. Because in a lot of the Eastern Caribbean countries I'm aware of, there are lots of programs that has low interest financing opportunities for small business owners or entrepreneurs who are emerging, and they help you develop your business plan. They help you get it off the ground. They help you manage it for the first few years to make sure all your accounting and finances are managed properly, and the operations and all of that. So folks, I mean, the opportunities are endless, and all you have to do is get out there and see what is there for you to access and take full advantage of it. Now, to all three of you, we as Caribbean people, and I might get some licks for saying this, but as Caribbean people, we often have the mentality that foreign is better than local. And I don't know if this culture or this train of thought has been embedded in us from the plantation days right down to this modern civilization of the Caribbean. But based on your experiences, do you think that the entrepreneurs in the Caribbean are supported enough by its own people?
When you say own people, you mean
by Caribbean
our
people?
Peers, by Caribbean people?
Yeah.
I would say yes. There's a popular saying, it's probably a Caribbean saying, people like who they like. So you could never sit back and say, well, I'm not getting the support. As a matter of fact, I hate that term. Hate is a strong word, but maybe I do really hate it. I hate the term, like when people go say like, support me, that sort of stuff, because if you have a product or service, even if somebody hates you, using that word again, but your product and service is good, they will come to it, they will buy your product, they will buy your service. They might not like that, they have to get it from you, but they will do it. So there's always a way to go around it. So I won't lay the blame on the consumer. It isn't beneficial. I don't see any benefit to it. You as the entrepreneur, you have to figure out a way to sell your product or your service. Right.
Annika, you in agreement, or you want to add anything to that?
I am 100% in agreement with Ringtone. I think he hit the nail on the head, because when you started, that was exactly what came to my mind. So I think, and from my experience, Caribbean people will support a product as long as it's a quality product. So if you're bringing the same old mediocre stuff to the table, you're gonna get, I mean, like they say, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes, so you cannot expect to be rewarded at any different level if you're doing everything the same way. So, for example, in my business, I take pride in my packaging. So for me, I know personally, if I receive something or when I go to a store, I'm always drawn to the packaging. That's always the first thing that catches my eye. I mean, marketing is there. It's a real thing for a reason, so it's the curb appeal, so to speak, of your product matters. And I think a lot of the time, Caribbean people do not take advantage of that well enough. So something as simple as just packaging your product in a very beautiful way, and just ensuring that what you're doing is presentable, that you're on time, that you try to provide excellent customer service. All of these things matter. I think customer service is king, to be honest. Above packaging and everything else, if you have a bad attitude, I'm not going back to your place of business. I don't care how much I need it, but I'm just not doing it. So I think overall that is I think what really matters.
Yeah, Annika, you really delve into my follow-up question, because I was going to ask if you think that some of the reasons why local people still go for foreign goods and services are based on customer services, quality, cost. Like, what is it really based on? But I think you hit the nail on the head. Shears, you wanted to comment on this as a consumer, from a consumer's perspective?
Well, I kind of disagree with Ringtone and Annika to an extent, not fully, but I think entrepreneurs here get support based on the product they're offering, because I think the more customized it is, to me, the higher chances is that they get support from their immediate surroundings, or if it's in the food business and so. But I think entrepreneurs in the clothing industry probably have a harder time, not necessarily because they're doing anything wrong, but of course they can't compete, so to speak, with the larger companies or the clothes that's being imported, or so to speak. So when me as a consumer, if I want quality for my money, but I also want value for my money. And obviously a smaller business, you'd have higher operating costs, and so they might be priced relatively more expensive than say when you go online and shop. So I think persons in like entrepreneurs who deal with clothing probably have a harder time getting support, because we want quality, but we also want quantity as well. And it's not entirely all their fault, because like you rightfully said earlier, customs is a big issue. And then I think a lot of persons go into entrepreneurship without understanding what it is. So like Annika was talking about how big of a deal customer service is as well. Like, just because I'm good at making cakes doesn't necessarily mean I can be a cake entrepreneur, because there are many more aspects to business than putting a product out there. So I think sometimes some of our entrepreneurs, like, they fail in that regard. So that kind of takes away from the business. But generally, I think people have a welcoming attitude towards them. But then, based on the service you provide, I think sometimes they get the support easily. Other times, for varying reasons, it's not that easy for them to get their support. So I think a lot has to be done. They need more support policy-wise. I think entrepreneurs need a bit more training, so to speak, in running a business, managing the finances, customer service, and these things. So, that's how I feel about it.
Right. Very, very, very interesting points you raise. And as we conclude, sadly, I mean, these programs are always too short for my liking. But we have to listen to our audience as well, and that's one of the concerns they had in our previous episode. But as we conclude, I would like to hear some closing remarks from each of you, and if there is any burning thing that you thought you wanted to mention.
So previously, one of the panelists mentioned that when you entrepreneurship is not for everyone. You can work a 9 to 5. Sometimes you can work both the 9 to 5 and be an entrepreneur. And so you can balance it too, but it's definitely not for the faint of heart. So you're forever learning, and unlike, in a traditional workplace where your employer would provide training for you, they would provide you all the tools necessary to do the job. You have to find those tools, and so you have to figure out a way to learn. And so YouTube is your greatest resource. Google is your greatest resource. So make use of those platforms that are available to you, and take it to the limit. I would say as well, I agree with Cherise when she mentioned the challenges that customers face. And I would say that every sector has, their unique experiences and so on, but you have to recognize, and like you mentioned earlier, do your research and ensure that you are, you're well aware, or you try to at least, bring yourself up to speed about your competitors and the different challenges, and create a unique product that you can sell to the world, and you can bring your passion to it. It's not just all about, entrepreneurship. It's also about bringing your heart into whatever you do, and to ensure that whatever you do it because you truly love it, and not because you're just trying to make money.
Right. Thank you for that, Annika. Cheers, any closing remarks?
To close, I just want to encourage all the entrepreneurs out there. I know many persons, when they're just starting up with a business, they don't necessarily look into the legal aspects of it. But whatever your business is, the first thing I want you to do, I just want to encourage you to do, is to register your business name. Just register your business and start building from there. Because when you register your business, you're building a brand. And we see a lot of the times when you look at consumer patterns, persons are not necessarily buying the product, but they're buying their brand. And for a host of other legal and probably banking and financial reasons, you should go out there and register your business, make sure you're tax compliant as well. Based on the products, look into the varying intellectual property protections available. What can be copyrighted? If you can copyright it, copyright it. What can be trademarked, trademark it as well, because as we enter the digital sphere, competition will be widespread. It's very easy to duplicate stuff on the internet. So you really want to try to protect yourself as much as possible and to just love what you do and try your best. There'll be good days, there'll be bad days, but that's just how it goes sometimes.
Great. Ringtone. Well, Jarrell, aka Ringtone. Closing remarks.
Yeah, I would just leave with two things. One, to stress what both of the other panelists said in terms of professionalism and customer service. I think that's the biggest thing that is affecting us as Caribbean entrepreneurs, and it goes back to our culture, but we are now competing in a global world, and working from London and seeing how literal billion-dollar companies will treat you like kings and queens, and you only give them $9.99 a month, but they know that you will tell your friends, or they know that later on in life you might have a much bigger account with them. So I think any Caribbean entrepreneur, to differentiate yourself from most of the other Caribbean entrepreneurs and businesses out there, is just good customer service and professionalism, reply to emails on time, call back your customers, do all of the things that you know you should. The next thing is, don't give up. At least don't give up easily. At times you have to pivot, so something might not be working, your first business might not work, you try again. Once you're not in jail, once you're not dead, you could always try again. One of the business news stories that I read this week, the biggest, currently the most valuable European startup company, they were in a competition about 19 years ago, 20 years ago, and they came dead last out of 20 people. And I could just imagine how you could feel to be in a competition and come dead last, but fast forward 20 years and now you're literally the most valuable European business. So it just shows you how things can change for you once you stick with it, believe in yourself. Anika said to go on YouTube. I 100% agree. You could find anything on YouTube, Coursera. So there's just way more resources out there for us to learn. And that's it for me.
I mean, just to add to what you said, you can also find Talk with Business on YouTube, right?
Exactly.
You get all the wonderful insights from our very well versed panelists from time to time, right? So I mean, wow, this is just so amazing. This is a lot to digest. But I must say, because this topic is evolving, I too have some takeaways from this session, and some of the things I would like to highlight. Entrepreneurship really shifts culture, so I encourage people to get out there and help our Caribbean people to develop an entrepreneurial mindset and use their talents to really survive and thrive in this digital age, And some of the takeaways I have is that you must first experiment with different business models and find the one that works best for you. Entrepreneurs must understand the business culture of the Caribbean and take advantage of it. And when I say take advantage of it, I don't mean in exploiting people, I mean take advantage of the opportunities that exist and deliver good quality products and services, right? When you create your product, as Shiri's highlighted, you need to register your brand and protect your intellectual property. Anika rightfully highlighted, collaboration is key. You need to find other like-minded entrepreneurs that you can partner with. Strategic alliances, they really work and help to propel entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial businesses within the Caribbean community. And as an entrepreneur, I will say this to you, never forget the reason why you started in the first place, right? So to our panel, Anika, Shiri's, Jarrell, thank you so much for giving off your time to be with us this week on Talk with Business. And to the listeners out there, you are amazing. You are the reason we exist. And we thank you for your continued support. And I really do think entrepreneurs can change the world, making it a better place. And I hope much of what was discussed here can inspire you to create understanding that It is all about how you started and how you market your product. So thank you very much. You've been a great audience. And I will see you next time when we talk with business.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.